Let's look at some common sense answers to some common Mevo questions. Today on My Favorite Things. Here is a friendly reminder to subscribe, to like, and to hit the notification bell so that new content comes straight to you. As we consider Mevo problems that come up in the course of live streaming, let's start here. If you're streaming or recording and you receive a pop-up message that something is going wrong, submit that to Mevo. Here's how. Start by clicking on the ellipsis at the bottom right of the screen. Choose the settings wheel, scroll down, and click on Support. Now choose Submit a Problem or Suggestion. What it will send to Mevo looks something like this. By the way, help.mevo.com is a robust FAQ and problem-solving website. They're always adding to the information that is contained there. But today we're going to look at video, sound, live streaming, and connection issues that may crop up during a stream or recording. Issues with video usually stem from a desire for folks to want their video image to be clearer. And that's a valid concern. If you're shooting on a Mevo Plus, you've got a 4K sensor. If you're shooting on a Mevo Start, you're shooting through a 1080p sensor, both high definition lenses. And the desire for clear video is a valid desire. One of the concerns that crops up is about graininess. Now, that means that what we're seeing is probably not lit well enough. I do want us to remember that what we see on the monitor part of the Mevo 2.0 app is just a monitor. It's not what the folks on the stream are seeing. And so to check and see how clear your picture is, you really need to be monitoring the other end of your stream or looking back at the recording. Now, camera placement is going to be key in the quality of your video shot. You're going to need that camera to be close. The camera I'm shooting on right now is about 4 feet away. 5 feet to 10 feet is fine, but anything further than that, you're going to lose some definition. This was designed, after all, to be a live event camera where the camera is actually placed close to its subject. So camera placement is one thing we can do. We can bring it closer. If you were shooting a wedding venue as a DJ and you were trying to get the view of what's going on around you, light is going to be another issue that you'll come into. Trying to shoot in a dark place is much harder than trying to shoot with plenty of light. And finally, zoom is one of those things that sometimes creeps up in the questions on the Facebook Mevo customer support group. And when we try to zoom in too far, especially in the absence of good quality light, we're going to get some severe graininess. We're going to see some degradation of that quality of that video. And remember that any zoom we do on the Mevo system of cameras is going to be a digital zoom. So you're going to be cropping, not truly zooming. So trying to get that camera as close as possible is going to be a common sense solution to a very common Mevo question. One of the things that comes up over and over again on that customer forum is as folks set their shots to have different views inside the app, they'll ask why that shot keeps going back to full screen. And the answer is almost always because autopilot is probably on. In the settings, the ellipsis at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and then in the eyeball on the far left where you can have live follow and autopilot. Make sure autopilot is turned off if you don't want it coming back to that full screen view and you want it to stay zoomed in on your shots. The next area that requires a common sense solution is sound. A lot of folks will say, I want my sound to be studio quality. Well, my advice to you is set it up in a studio. Have you ever played racquetball? You know, a racquetball court is 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling, all of them in play. All of them hard surfaces, all of them flat. Ever tried to have a conversation in a racquetball court? Not the best place for audio quality. So if the place where you're setting up your Mevo for your live stream or for your recording resembles a racquetball court, you may struggle with sound. Now, there are some answers to sound problems that should be common sense answers. If we're going to be working with the built-in microphones, there are some ways those shine, that they actually thrive. I have a friend that I just helped set up a Mevo Plus in his church, and they have sound running from the soundboard to the Mevo through a Rode Wireless Go. I use that system all the time in my own church. But they have found that during the worship set, the building is so full of sound, they can turn the Rode Wireless Go input off and just use the Mevo Plus inbuilt microphone, and because the room is so full of sound, it picks it up very well. It works for them. It doesn't work for everybody, but that's the solution they've found. Whenever it's time for the message to be given, they go back to the inbuilt sound that comes through the soundboard, and it works just fine for them. The built-in mics work in some places, but they don't work as well in others. And in those places where the sound is a little more cavernous, where the space allows the echoes to reverberate around in the room, you may want to look at a wired microphone. Now, there are lots of ways to get a wired microphone into the stream that you have. You can adapt and plug directly into a lapel mic that's wired. I use one almost every time that I do a recording. You can plug that same lapel mic into your streaming device and then choose that as an input in the sound settings of the Mevo app. Then there are the wireless mics, like we talked about the Rode Wireless Go, or I've done a video on the Ceremonic Blink 500 system. Both are excellent systems for putting sound into the Mevo. Mevo itself has developed the Mevo Mic app, which does a fantastic job of making sure you have sound that's close to you going into your stream or to your recording. That can be run on any device that's on the same wireless network as your Mevo and produce good quality sound. And finally, running that sound through your soundboard. If you're that DJ that runs wedding venues or similar likes, or if you're in a church setting, being able to let the sound guy control the sound, and you just take an output from that soundboard or that mixer and put it into your Mevo, that's going to be the best quality, the easiest solution for whoever's running your live stream. Going live is one of those places that really requires a common sense answer to some of the common Mevo problems. One of the things that I see on the Mevo customer support group on Facebook is the message, there's been a problem with my destination. And the truth is, we're relying on someone else's platform. If we could build our own website, if we could embed our video, send our video to our own website and train our own audience to go to our website for video content, then we wouldn't be relying on someone else's platform, but most of us are not going to do that. So truth be told, we're going to be relying on a Twitch or on a YouTube or on a Facebook, their platform for us to produce our content onto. And whether we're using their API or whether we're using our RTMP settings to get to their platform, sometimes issues creep in there. Using the API is completely reliant on what they've decided will be allowable and how it will talk to the equipment that we're using. RTMP takes the settings from that platform and plugs them into our product, the Mevo 2.0 app, and allows us to stream much more directly into that platform. So choosing RTMP over the API is oftentimes a good common sense solution to this going live Mevo issue that will creep up from time to time. The other thing that I see in the live streaming arena is that oftentimes someone will report that their stream has no sound. Oftentimes that's a copyright issue. I have one video on my YouTube channel. It's a baseball game that I leave up so that folks can see what that looks like, and it has a copyright claim on it because of a walk-up song. 10-second clip of a kid walking up to bat that was a song he chose to be his walk-up song, and I didn't get to the mute button quite fast enough, so there's a copyright claim on that. Now, YouTube may or may not mute you. Facebook's going to. They're going to mute you, and then they're going to shut your stream down. And if you're in a church setting and your worship band is really, really good, sometimes, even though it's live music, they'll flag you for the copyright because you're using someone else's and you've made it really close to what the original was. So trying to figure out how to get those copyright claims from shutting our sound down is as simple as relying on live music instead of canned music, or not recording that part of what we're streaming out to our audience. And there are a lot of folks who want to be able to stream to more than one destination at a time. That's multi-streaming. And whether you use the Vimeo subscription that allows you to multi-stream, or whether you use the Restream.io subscription that allows you to do the same, you should have the ability to stream live to multiple destinations at once. Now, Vimeo has struggled since the pandemic. I don't know if it's their servers or their technology or their unwillingness to update, but they have struggled, and so Restream has seen some traction in the Mevo world. The thing about Vimeo is it allows you, it gives you the added benefit of doing the over-the-shoulders, the overlays that happen in the Mevo 2.0 app, and Restream does not. So that's just a decision you have to make as to how important it is for you to stream to multiple destinations, and then if streaming to multiple destinations requires the overlays as well. A dropped connection is one other place that requires some common sense solution. Whether we're talking about dropping the connection to the platform or dropping the connection with the camera, oftentimes that's a frustrating part of trying to live stream. And we need to discuss whether we're talking about a wired setup or a wireless setup. If we're trying to use Wi-Fi, then we set ourselves up for dropped connections from time to time. If we're wired into our router, then the drops will be much less often. Physical distance also has a lot to do in the wireless connection with how often we drop. Having our wireless router a couple of rooms over, separated by a few walls, maybe even some air conditioning work, is going to be a recipe for disaster in trying to get a good quality, reliable stream. The age of our equipment is also something else that we have to consider. If I'm trying to use a router that is several years old and doesn't have the most current drivers on it or the most current technology in its ability to handle data, that's going to be an issue for me as well. Internet issues are something that we are out of our control. There was a time here in my community where if I tried to go live anytime between 3 and 7 o'clock in the afternoon, when students would be getting out of school, it was just an exercise in futility because the internet in our local community would be so crowded, trying to get an upload speed was next to impossible. And then finally, if we're streaming in a crowded setting, the crowdedness, the amount of traffic on our local area network is going to have something to do with our drop connections too. So trying to isolate our wireless setup or our wired router, our traffic arena, is going to help us in our live streaming as well. What are your common sense answers to common Mevo problems? Drop a note in the comments. Let's talk about it.